Now, once a jury is picked, a juror often wonders, well, what's my role? What am I supposed to do? Well, typically, it's just listen and keep an open mind. Some judges will permit jurors to take notes and use those notes to aid them in their memory while they're deliberating. Other judges will say, I don't want you to take notes because it may distract you from focusing on important parts in your role as being a juror. Now, what makes a juror a good juror? Well, someone who's a good listener, someone who is able to look at someone's body language and form informed conclusions. When you look at someone and they testify and they don't make eye contact with any of the jurors, a good juror will use their common sense and their life experiences to reach a conclusion. Is that witness not telling the truth and that's why they're not making eye contact? Or is it just that they're nervous? Jurors are asked to evaluate a witness's credibility to decide whether or not that witness is telling the truth. And they're asked to use their life tools and their common sense in reaching that very difficult decision. I mean, think about it as a juror. You're being asked to meet a complete stranger, learn a little bit about that person, and then hone in on what they say about a particular event to decide whether or not you think what they're saying is truthful. Now, jurors can reach different conclusions about different witnesses. They could conclude that that witness is both honest and accurate about what they're reciting. They also may say that the person may be trying to tell the truth, but because of a variety of reasons, they may not be able to relate an accurate version of what happened. Also, jurors could reach the conclusion that a witness is outright lying. Now, in a criminal case, you need a unanimous verdict. That means all 12 sitting jurors have to agree on a particular result. If they can't all agree and the judge discerns that the discord among the jurors is such that they're never going to reach a unanimous verdict, then that judge will ultimately be forced to declare a mistrial. Now, in a civil case in New York, there are typically 6 sitting jurors. As opposed to a criminal case which requires a unanimous result, a civil jury only has to conclude 5 out of 6 jurors reaching the same conclusion in order to deliver a verdict. Now, sometimes there's an instance where a primary juror has an inability to fulfill their service. And sometimes that happens during the pendency of the case while evidence is still being received. And other times it may happen after the jury begins deliberations. And that distinction is important. When there is a juror who can no longer fulfill their obligations, then the next alternate up will just be shuffled into their spot. But what happens if the jury is sitting and deliberating after the evidence has been closed? Then an alternate can be substituted in that primary juror's place only if the parties agree. Now, in a criminal case, most defendants will say they're not going to agree, and then the trial will result in what's called a mistrial. In some instances, the lawyers will agree to substitute that alternate juror in the place of a primary juror and allow the case to reach a verdict.